one Boyle.
Yes.
Yeah, not Sarah. Sarah's where he is.
Yeah, Sarah's the one that goes between IKEA and
Yeah.
the apartment building over
North
there.
and south?
Yeah, north and
Okay.
south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Boyle is.
And you're talking about,
Coming off of Sarah, that's where you get into the
Yeah.
new garage.
Yeah.
And that's where the only visitor parking is, but it's paid by the hour.
yeah, I know, that's where I've ended up the last two times because I just don't know where to go. So that's why I was asked, so it's in the front.
Yeah, if you park on
So
that side
it's
over
gotta
Come
be-
down
there,
to Sarah,
Yeah,
You
come down
can't point
Sarah.
because
Past
everybody
that,
gets like, what's
make a
over
left and it's literally
on the
next
north
street.
side, which is that way.
On Duncan.
Yes, on Duncan. See, that's the thing is I don't
It's
necessarily know street
flat
names. I
But it's
know.
4240 Duncan.
Exactly.
Okay.
Ah, there it is.
But
Although
you have
it's
to come
deceiving
out
because
for
the entrance is not really on Duncan.
That's true.
It's just the address.
No, I was just looking for anything after 30 that wasn't in the tower, so.
So we may end up with a little bit of a light crowd at the beginning because all the signs were wrong, saying 5 o'clock. But so they're working on fixing those now. So we might have a bunch of people like showing up just a little bit late. Yeah, that's normal. We'll work through it. So Ryan, I don't know if you met Caitlin earlier.
Yeah, I met her.
There's
Keith.
a few others. Keith. I didn't catch your name.
Lisette.
Is that?
Lisette.
Lisette, sorry, I missed that.
No problem.
So,
Great,
nice to meet you.
you.
Caitlin also is working with Missouri SourceLink. She's asked permission to record this session because they want to do a blog post about this session. I've given her permission. I guess the room needs to understand that it's recording both on video and on audio. I don't think anything in here will be too sensitive, but you know, always expect you're on camera and audio somewhere, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Ryan,
Looks like I got
nice to meet you.
Dwight.
Lisette.
Keith, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, and you? A little on the chilly side, but hey.
What about that window?
Oh, this is a good spot.
Is that the good spot?
This is
Good
good.
sun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get a little
No
solar,
leaks, no window leaks, I guess.
little photosynthesis going on
Right.
here, hopefully.
Yeah, I walked over from the other building. It's cold.
Yeah, buddy.
That's what I just told them before, is like I chickened out. I drove from Sarah down to here because I didn't feel like walking through that.
Okay, St. Louis, it'll change in 2 days.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
We already had fake springs show up this week.
Yeah, yeah.
Caitlin, I was looking to see if
Oh,
you
yeah, you
were
guys
one
got
that
space for more?
answered me
Oh, absolutely.
some time ago
All right.
through Missouri Source
Sure,
Link,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
All right.
Because when she said that, it's like, okay, I'm looking through my emails to see.
What is Missouri SourceLink?
Yeah, so we connect entrepreneurs with resources across the state. We're a nonprofit, so we partner with other nonprofits, government funded, and
Oh.
And you need to get their grant report they just released because it is awesome.
yeah, the Show Me Capital.
Especially to see all the white spaces around the state that need to be filled in.
Yeah,
It's really eye-opening.
yeah, it's fun and good.
I've shared that with probably 5 or 6 people already.
Oh, awesome,
Yeah.
thank you.
When you say grant report, what types of grants?
Everything that's available in Missouri, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, Show Me
We got a few
Capital,
seats
so
left.
what's up there and where the funding is going.
And it's not just grants.
Show me
I just
capital?
was looking for
Yeah.
grants.
That's catchy.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a good report.
Well, we're at 5 o'clock now.
This seat's free as well.
I don't want to take too long getting started, so that way we can make sure that we have enough time to everyone gets some value out of the conversation that I hope to have here. Before we get going, I'd like to have a feel of the room. Part of this is like the concept that we came into this was that we were potentially going to be talking to a room full of entrepreneurs, startups, people, leaders who are looking to, who are having troubles finding developers to work on the solution. But we need to actually test that assumption. It's like, I'd like to know the room, is if you could give us a little bit of information about yourselves so we know, who we're learning with, and then, where we can take this conversation from there. So I guess, Jocelyn, even though this is kind of fake, I know you. So.
Yeah, I will jump in the lake or something first. I am a developer, but I am also an entrepreneur, and I would want friends to develop an app with me. I am socially too sure, whatever. Sorry. Yeah.
I kind of put you on the spot
Am I
first.
answering enough for you?
No, that's fine. And Jacob, how about you?
Cool.
My name is Jacob Cantu. I am trying my hand at entrepreneurship here. I've got an idea. It's an insurance startup. And I've gotten like a lot of the product detail worked out. I'm working with a couple of actuaries to help me develop all that. And I've got a friend that works in venture capital, so he's helping me refine the deck and flesh out the business idea. So I've got like a pretty good strategy and all that stuff worked out. But the real thing that I need help with is building out the actual user interface side of things, like the actual web platform. I have absolutely no skill. I work in investments, right? So I have no skill doing that. And I have no idea where to start, right? But I figured this was probably a good place. So this is my very first time here, so
Well, welcome.
go easy on me.
Glad you decided to join us tonight. Hey, Keith, how about you?
Yeah, Keith Nepper, Greenline STL. I'm working with ranchers, farmers, growers, doing niche devices that build soil health and with diverse natives. So I don't know if I could get more specific than that. So we have a smorgasbord of really things we're looking for development everywhere from a position all the way down to an immediate need with some of our devices, for instance, a drone dry application spreader.
Interesting. Okay.
God, it's hard to follow that. I'm Lizette. I've had a couple of startups that were not sold for billions of dollars. I went through launch code and I'm a neophyte coder, so.
My name is Julian Keaton. I'm the founder of Dimensions, a interactive mobile app game that's focused on acclimating college students and transplants to the region. I have no technical background when it comes to computer science or coding, but like the hopes for our game is to make it into an augmented reality game. So kind of trying to navigate that space now.
Brandon Clyburn, I'm a co-founder of Panoptive. I've got a technical background myself, but it's we've been around for a little while. We've got a platform that's pretty close, but I need someone to kind of take the torch and be a solid developer and kind of polish the rest of it off and kind of run with it. So that's my challenge right now is that I need someone with enough gravitas to really run with it and be able to hand it off now, but I don't know those people, so it'll be interesting to hear thoughts on how you get that level of trust with someone who's, you know, has got to be ready now because we're B2B and it's kind of go time. So.
Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin. I'm a Venture for America fellow. I'm working with Missouri SourceLink as a network navigator, so connecting entrepreneurs to different resources across the state. I don't have a business yet, but I'm very interested in starting one, and hopefully with the fellowship and being connected out here, I can move towards that.
Nice.
Dwight Cox, Air Force veteran, prior federal employee, looking to commercialize in-flight refueling. I'm like, what is that? 2 airplanes flying at 500 miles an hour, transferring gas. The Department of Defense has needed this capability for 30 years. They've offered $1 billion for a company like mine. And I need developers to help me basically automate the data associated with geospatial airspace all over the world. So if you guys are interested, we can have a conversation afterwards.
You guys get in the last 2 chairs. It's a good deal.
For sure.
So,
I'm Jack. I'm not looking for developers, but I'm always looking to learn new things.
nice.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca. I actually work with Ryan and Brandon, but specifically with Ryan, I'm a human-centered designer, so I do user experience. I think about the experience of the people using and interacting with the technology. But right now I'm on a project that doesn't have a front end. So I'm thinking about the experience of actually developers who interact. The technology doesn't have a front end. It's a data pipeline. So it's something that ingests a lot of data and then transforms it, and people consume that data and do cool stuff with it. But I'm interested in hearing about the experience of developers and learning about how to build technology that really is intuitive to their experience of building and supporting tools.
We just since we're doing this in kind of a roundtable format, just so you know as you walked in, we're kind of introducing each other a little bit here to describe what the problems that we're facing are. I didn't know if you wanted to share a little bit about who you are and what you're looking to get today, so we can kind of make sure that we're supporting the right conversation.
So my name is Alon Bilboa, we're Salt, and we have a company called Explority, and it helps companies and organizations that are managing group experiences, so handling all the invoicing, consolidating all the invoicing forms, and connection then back to their different back-end systems. So I think I'm probably looking for, so my background is in computer science, so I have that background, but I think as I continue to progress, working with more developers and hiring them is always a challenge.
Okay. And welcome to the others that just joined the room. We're running short on the intro time, so I want to come back around to you all later and to have this same conversation as well. But I also realized at the same time I didn't start by introducing myself. My name is I'm Brandon Belvin. I work with 1904 Labs. We're a software consultancy here based out of the CIC. Ryan, who's with me today, is our CTO. And so we, as it says here, we help leaders transform their businesses through software and data. But what we're really here to talk about is the unique perspective of how to pitch to and acquire a developer by kind of engaging their curiosity, giving them a problem to solve rather than a list of attributes you're looking for. I didn't know if there's any more you wanted to say, Ryan?
No, I mean, that's a really, I think, a good introduction. I mean, so I've been at 1904 since pretty well our founding, and through that have hired a lot of developers that are on our staff. And I mean, this is a space that really excites me. One of our founding tenets, you'll see on the screen, Startup Minds, Innovative Solutions. So we're catering to those with an entrepreneurial mindset. And anyway, I've always been just really excited about new business and new business creation, and what better way to support our community than coming out and holding a conversation, a roundtable conversation like this. And it's designed to be interactive, so we're looking to you to bring your questions and stop us along the way. Sure.
So with that, we'll get going. So of course, hey. How to pitch to developers. That's what we're here for today. First thing we want to get into a little bit is we are as a software consultancy we focus on agile methodologies, and to take some little kernel of value out of agile itself is the concept of developing developing a persona. This is you got to think of this as you're writing a play. You're actually developing a character, a real person who actually exists, not just a list of traits and tropes like a person who likes to code or a person who wants to join my company. This is a flesh and blood person that is a representation of the archetype that you're looking for. It's kind of an exercise that you want to go through at the beginning to decide what is it that I am looking for. And it's going to help you understand that person who's going to fit within your concept and within your company. And once you have that, it's going to give you a good basis to work from. So I'm going to give you, we've kind of done this internally to the labs as well. So I'm going to show you, we actually have some personas that we've developed in the labs about people who would want to join our company and be there. This one is David. He's an intensely curious innovator. Now David is not actually an employee, and this photo came from a stock photo service. But this is, we designed this as a real person. He has a personality, he has goals, he has needs. We've developed a person and a character around this, so that way we can get inside, so we can empathize with this fictitious person. And we're able to connect and actually understand this person now that it's not just a list of attributes. He's more than just a team-minded personality. He wants to make an impact through his expertise. he wants to learn new skills. He's frustrated with micromanagement. And he's got a full backstory here that, you can start to make in your mind. And so this could be, a combination of all the experiences you've had, some things that you would project onto this person, but this is going to give you a chance, before you even get started trying to find your hero, to find a way to connect with this person before they even exist in your world. Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
So you're mentioning things like, doesn't like micromanagement and like,
Mhm.
so should I be taking into account how I manage? And that ideally, this personality should encompass someone that matches my leadership style, which then requires me to be self-aware and know whether I'm a micromanager.
I think that's a good way of describing it. No, I mean, that's really good. What you're describing here is the person who is going to join and make your organization better. They're gonna have to fit in with whatever your organization is, or list some of the attributes that you hope they bring that are going to change your organization for the better. And so that's actually a very insightful question. Thank you.
So one
For
more
that.
maybe
Yeah.
specific question. So if I'm an entrepreneur and I can't afford a full-time developer, but I'm identifying a part-time, this is probably where like, well, nights work best for me, so I want, as opposed to, oh, he's only gonna be coding on the weekend, so even that type of level of alignment.
This can get as deep or
Okay.
specific as you want. This can be, we've gone really deep. And the human-centered design practice did a great job putting together these personas at 1904 to really capture, a true individual. You don't have to necessarily go this deep. It could be, just a few little lines, but it's however deep you make it, it needs to be meaningful to you, to give you that self-reflection, a better understanding of yourself and what you're looking for. So when you go out there, you can help identify that this person is fitting your archetype.
And one thing I'll just mention here is that we've done this for the company, but we do this with each of our teams. So when we stand up a team, we'll do a needs analysis, and then, contract negotiations will take place, a statement of work, a contract, and then we move into discovery. When we get into discovery, that's when we're understanding what the end user is and what they need. And as part of that, we'll develop these personas. So we do this at the team level as well.
This methodology only for developers, it can be actually for anyone.
This is a persona. This can be any person that you
No,
want to
for any role,
represent.
any job.
Exactly. So we, like Ryan mentioned, we do this for the users of the applications that we would write, or the stakeholders. Anything that, any person that is going to matter to your system. We just bring in developer today because that's what the talk is about, but this can apply anywhere throughout the entire company for whatever you're actually looking to accomplish. That's a very insightful question. Thank you. All right, so, but once you've gone through the idea, you don't have to do a persona, but it's going to set you up for success as you go into this the system of actually finding the person. But the key here of finding this developer, once you've kind of started to formulate the idea in your mind, is about crafting a story. A developer, the typical archetype of a developer is a problem solver. They want to have something nice and meaty that they can get their mind around, that they can find and solve a problem. They're not box checkers for the most part. They're not a list of skills. They, based on the persona we just put up, they actually have wants and needs. And so one of those wants that you're commonly going to find is the want to be a hero. We want to cast them as that hero. As I recently finished the Building a Story Brand book, and so this has kind of colored my perception of the world recently. But this is something that's very valuable in the same way. Is you're gonna go through and you're gonna identify the problems that your company has. Those are your dragons of the story. So we're setting up dragons for your hero to have to come and vanquish. And then you're going to cast your developer as the hero in your story. You're going to try to, you get them kind of interested, you're going to spark their curiosity, and then after all that, that's when you're going to start looking as if this is the right fit. So, from the Story Brand book, the idea here is that you aren't the hero, you're the guide. You're the one who's calling the hero to action. So Yoda wasn't the hero, but without Yoda, there wouldn't have been Skywalker to be the hero of the story of the Star Wars sagas. You know, that is, every story needs both that guide and the hero. You are the guide, you've identified the problem, and you're serving it up to the hero to solve. The guide doesn't solve it, it just sets the hero on the path.
Yeah, so if you, I mean, if you put together a technical challenge that's enticing, a room full of developers is gonna immediately begin the solutioning. In fact, sometimes you have to rein that process back.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, first of all, in this process is you need to understand, just as you were doing the self-reflection on yourself and your company and the organization that you have, you also need to do that same self-reflection on your dragons. You need to describe them, you need to name them. What are the big problems that you're looking to solve? This can't be, I have a seat, so I need one more developer to come and make this more effective. This is, I have a problem. I need, let's see if I can pick one, the mobile app. So I need the mobile game, the Julian, I think that was yours, correct? So I have this problem. I have a mobile game, and it has, I've gotten it so far that I can on my own, and I've got some people that helped me, but there's a huge problem that there's a back end that this thing needs to be able to make it take off. The users can't connect. There's problems, getting them to connect to each other. The core problem, I figured out the business model, but now there's this dragon standing in the way of me and that pile of gold that it's protecting. So now you've identified a problem, and I'm kind of pulling that one out of the air, but that might be one of your dragons. And so you gotta find that dragon, name your dragons. There could be lots of them, but you need to figure out, like, what dragon is this? Is this a huge, gnarly, big red dragon, or is this like a little baby dragon over here? And that's gonna really decide, it's like what you're going at. It's like, is this one, just any old person come in and stomp this one, or do I need a hero to come take the big red dragon? And that's where it's gonna decide, is like once you have those dragons and describe, you need to survey do your own internal survey of the people that you're reaching out to. If you get someone who is just fresh out of launch code, it's unlikely you want them to face the big red dragon. It's very possible, but you wouldn't, even someone just out of college or whatever. You want, in that case, you want someone who has a proven track record of accomplishments before they go for that. So you want to get the right problem in front of the right audience instead of saying, "Hey, everybody, I have this problem." And that's not going to get your story understood and absorbed. And then, of course, the biggest thing is you are the guide, so no solutioning. You aren't to come in and say, "Oh, I have this problem, and I want you to fix it like this." Yoda never said anything like that. The goal here is for you to bring them in and them to figure out how to slay the dragon. If you could have done it, you should have done it already. So, yeah.
I get it as far as the narrative of identifying big, small dragons. But in Julian's case, or my case, Julian has to know basically his business model. To get to artificial intelligence, you have to have an idea of what that journey is going to look like.
Yes.
Right? Although he's not going to say, "I need you to take the journey like this." There's deliverables that him going forward as absolutely has got to hit. So how do you balance?
I guess that's
not
a distinction.
entrenching on the developers, but
Yeah.
at the same time going, hey, the FCC needs certain information. My accounting department needs certain information. I want to get pulled data so I'll know if users are using just the free app or they're actually investing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I think that's good. It's like that's you as the business hero, knowing that those pieces. I guess when I'm saying solutioning, it's more of, I need you to solve this technical problem in a very specific technical way.
Okay.
Now there may be part of that, if you're talking about like a regulatory environment, that's part of the story overall.
Okay.
That's part of the dragon, and that's going to be part of their required role of dealing with that dragon. But at this early stage, and you'll see as we get a little deeper into this, that we want to lay out those dragons so that way they can engage it and hopefully take it on as the hero themselves. And I hope that that'll be a little bit more clear coming up, and if it's not, I'd love to come back around to that and see if we can find a better way of answering that.
Yeah, and I would just add, I mean, you're looking for an expert. And so the classification is what's the challenge ahead, and building almost a rapport with the expert such that they can have some ownership over bringing a solution forth. And obviously there's, qualifications and everything else, but the idea is that you're looking for an expert, and then you're giving them some creative freedom to, bring a solution forward.
I guess you could say you're building the arena in the story, and so you're setting the parameters by which the battle will occur, but it is up to them to actually accomplish the battle in the end. If I'm going to keep going, I'm going to get deeper in this metaphor. I'm going to go all the way down if I have to. I live in metaphor land.
Do we move from Star Wars to Gladiator now?
I guess we just did. I don't know. We've kind of gone Lord of the Rings or off in that direction. I can go all day. I mix metaphors, like apples and oranges. So, oh come on. All right. First thing I want to show. The next thing I want to show you. This is not a dragon. This is a weak job description. It's a list of attributes. And this one is one that I pulled recently from a local company that has this out there for everyone to see. They want a qualified candidate with 3 to 5 years of experience on this, and then this framework and this framework. They're solutioning. They're telling you not just the arena, they're telling you, I want you to use this shield, this sword, you can only stab 3 times, and blah, blah, blah. This is not the situation that you're likely in, but this kind of thing is not going to draw in a hero. This one's going to draw in a trench miner. Like they come in, they get the job done, but they're not going to be the one that's going to elevate the company. They're just going to check off the boxes.
Wow, that's huge. I'm sorry.
What percentage of job ads would you say look like this?
99%.
I was gonna say.
99%. And I think that might actually be conservative.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a few dot nines
That's what I
after
was like,
that
wow,
too.
to be able to go from this to
So as a-
something that's amazing.
As a developer though, which I am, like it's important that what you create is compatible with the rest of the systems involved. Like you don't want to have a Java system here, a .NET system here, a React system over there. Like you got to have a consistency within your companies, particularly if you're a larger company, you have to have consistency.
Yes.
So, I mean, you want someone that can learn these things certainly, but you don't necessarily want to exclude someone because they don't have test-driven development background. So I would caution.
Well,
caution
I guess
some there.
this is an important part of the story, but this is the only thing that they have out there. This is not even a lead-in to a story. This is like, hey, I need any warm body who can come fill these seats by these parameters. What I'm talking about, the reason I'm bringing that up here is that what we're kind of talking about is something different than that. Like, we're not, I don't want to teach you how to find just any developer. We're trying to find you the developer. And so this part is part of it, and this is part of your assessing the individual once it comes down to it. But if you lead with this, you've lost them already. And so this is where, as far as if you lead with only this, so this is part of the arena, I guess, is going back to that same description. It's like the arena is a little more defined here, but for most small companies, it's much more open than that. And if you do need a hero, this may not be the description that's going to pull them in, is kind of where I'm going. And so this will...
Because they don't like it?
It's not going to engage them. It's not giving them a problem to solve. It's telling them, I need anybody with these skills, but not why.
But in reality, as the gentleman says, 99% is like that. So how can you basically come and say opposite, that it does not attack, as long as the entire world works on this format?
I would say that I think this is... I may have gotten this a little blurry here because this is a job description that's out in the world rather than a pitch to developers. Although you could say a cold job description out there is going to be your pitch. But what you can start with is, you know, all of these stories, all of these job descriptions that I've seen out there, most of them don't start with the why. They start with the what. I'm looking for this body. They're not telling me as a developer, why do I even care? Like, okay, I have, yep, I have all of those skills, so what? Like, what are you actually wanting from me? Because if I'm gonna come and plant my butt in your chair, there's gotta be something, you know, more to it than just getting the job done. There's plenty of people who will come and get that job done, but if you're looking for someone to come in and provide outsized value to your organization, you're not likely to find it with this kind of open. And most recruiters are just trying to get the job done, trying to get, for the large organizations, they're just trying to get as many bodies to apply as possible so they can get a seat filled. I don't think that's what the people in this room are looking to do. You're looking for 1, 2 very specific, heroic individuals who are going to take your organization to that level. And so you could do this, and you're gonna find somebody. But you're gonna get 100 applicants, and you're gonna have to weed it down and hope that one of them is the somebody.
Yeah, and I would just say that if you're hiring for a specific technology set, it's kind of like saying, hey, here's your hammer, everything looks like a nail. But if you're going for something that's a bit more creative, innovative, a bit more outside the box, then you're really gonna shy away from the specific technologies and really craft it as, here's the challenges we're up against, and then, you know, letting.
Jack?
Yeah, so I just wanted to dig down
Yeah.
on what, because I think we need to go one more deep, which is if you're a startup and you have a minimum development team and you have a small team, you need rock stars. In rock stars, you need to have bought into your problem and your solution, and you need them actively working to solve problems that you're not even thinking of. You don't just want to bring in someone who can code.
Exactly.
And this description gets you someone who can code, but even when you start thinking about how they're going to get compensated in a startup, it's going to be equity driven, so you need someone that is driven long range of the company, buys into the product, as opposed to just wants the base salary, 401k benefits. So I think there's a different way of looking at who you would want to hire as the CEO of a startup versus if you're a large Fortune 100 company that is just down to development.
Yeah, I think that's, go ahead.
And I would enhance what you're saying there, that they're not only equity, they're equity compensated, they're interest compensated.
Yeah.
And so you're giving them a reason to do the job, and that's a lot of compensation by itself. I've been paid well and wanted to leave a job because there was just nothing left there. I was getting stuff done, but I didn't care anymore. The story had been lost. And so it's very important for the engagement of an individual or a team, the rock star as you put it, to give them a big heroic action to work on. So you gotta cast your hero. And so, as Jack described, the rock star, the others would say a ninja or whatever. I prefer not to use those words, but in this case I used hero because we're talking about hero versus dragon kind of situation. As the guide, your goal is to, if you're engaging with an individual, to guide them, be the Yoda, to see that they can be the hero. You know, in the swamp, Luke was done. Yoda had to push on him to get him to see that he could be the hero. In this case, in the same way, you're casting this vision, you're writing the story in front of them, with them, and they don't even know it yet, but you are writing them into your story as the hero. So you do that by engaging them, bringing them in. This isn't like, my company needs somebody like this, I have this problem. No, we are going to accomplish this. You and me together, we are a unit. This is an us and a we problem, not an I problem. So as soon as you, and what you're doing there is you're setting the stage for them to start seeing themselves in that story. And you at some point, if it's working, you'll see a little click. You'll start to see those gears start to turn, and they're starting to add more to the story themselves, but we'll get back to that. But through all this, you're gonna show them how you see them coming to the arena, how you see them addressing the dragon, which isn't going to be necessarily the way it happens, but you're setting the stage of, this is one way it can play out, and you're going to be the hero, and we're all going to win.
Yeah, no, and the hook is that personal ownership, and what developer doesn't get excited about a little personal ownership over how a problem is solved and the kinds of technologies that are used to solve it.
And so once you've set the table, once you've started to write that story in front of them, then your goal then is to spark their curiosity. You want to get them to where they're starting to complete the story themselves. So this is where, I was talking before, that job description, it was very rigid in, I needed this, this, and this. The more restrictions you're putting on at this point, the less creative they can be, the less, where they're going to be seeing this in multiple avenues. They're going to come in and there's going to be multiple branching paths that this story could take. And every time that there's been a limiter on, one of those is cut off. And so a creative, heroic rockstar developer is going to know 17 different ways to come at this problem. And if you pull out some of those, it's reducing that person's effectiveness even before they have a chance to join your story. And so they're going to come in, and if you're lucky, if you've engaged them, they're going to be skeptical. They're not going to trust you. They're not going to see that there's that what you're working on is of any value yet. And you want this. You want them to be poking at it. You want them to be, kind of sizing up the dragon for themselves with you. And so at this point, if they're skeptical, if they're asking you probing questions, the goal here is you can't be defensive. You need to let them start writing and engaging the story themselves. And that's going to start building their own interest. They're bringing themselves into the story, and so seeing how they fit into the story and seeing your reaction is going to determine whether or not they can work with you, because this is now our story, not my story. And so if they still think that you're holding control, that you're reining them in, they're not Skywalker, they're just some swamp rat still. They need to start, getting that they are going to be the hero. And hopefully what that does is that starts getting them excited and interested in your problem, which is now, in their mind, their problem. It is their dragon to slay, and you both are going to get value from it.
Yeah, and that can be really hard to do because, what entrepreneur doesn't, have a lot of passion around their idea? You have to have a lot of passion around your idea to carry it forward, to carry it into the marketplace. And so when you meet with somebody and they're starting to poke around the edges of that idea, it's really difficult not to get defensive. But that's one of the mechanisms that an analytical mind will use to kind of take ownership of the idea and to move in and kind of interact with it. And so that's one thing that I would just caution is just understand that that's the way this mind of a developer works.
And if you're lucky, what that's going to do is they're going to find something that you didn't see. That's the big goal here is, as the hero, they're going to find a path that you would have never found. Otherwise, you didn't need them. And so, through this process, if you're letting them be that hero, they are going to find a solution. And if if it works out well, one that's going to be very good for both sides and very interesting for them and valuable for you.
As a counterpoint though, hero developers particularly love to play with the newest toys. So sometimes they might lean towards a bleeding edge technology that just isn't quite ready for prime time. So you might want to make sure that A, the technology that they're choosing is proven, and B, they have some experience with it. Because there's a ramp-up curve to learning any new technology.
And I agree with that for the most part. I mean, that's going to be part of, in the next part of, assessing their fit. Making sure that, what they're bringing to the table does fit. At the same time, I would say that is a common thing that will happen, but not guaranteed. That is one of the tropes about developers, especially in the hero sense. But if you're finding someone who's truly engaging, who's a hero, who wants to solve the problem the right way, not just the most interesting way, then you're finding someone who you want to be on your team. And so that's part of what you can do through this, and I'm glad you kind of set this up, is that's going to be part of your assessment of, is this person going to treat my problem as a game, Or are they actually gonna get bought in on this? Is this a chance for them to experiment with the neatest, coolest stuff? Or do they actually have a path? Do they know how to slay this dragon and they're gonna get us there together? And so that's kind of the deal. And you know, playing around is interesting. You wanna let them experiment and play with the idea. In the end, something has to be created, and so you really have to be engaged with that. But you know, this is part of the valuing of their analytical mind, as Ryan described. You know, you want them probing, you want them skeptical, and you need to let yourself be interviewed by them essentially to make sure that this is bi-directional, that they think you're a fit for them as well.
And they'll be able to demonstrate, as you're, you know, doing this assessment, they'll be able to, you know, demonstrate that they've been able to acquire a technology, acquire it quickly, and you'll get a feel for that. You know, if there isn't that history there, or there isn't that ability to represent that, then that may be, you know, a red flag, and, you know, certainly something to look for.
And as I mentioned earlier, you know, as you were talking about the I and turning off the I and me and turning into we and us, let's see if they start reflecting that back. Are they using those same words? Do they see this as a we problem, or is it still a, oh, you have a problem kind of situation? If it's a you have a problem, they're not in. You know that much already. It's like this is, they didn't write themselves into the story. And so they may still join, but they aren't, as far as what we're talking about today, they aren't the hero of this particular story. And so you want to find a way to get them to write themselves in. And then the big question at the end is, let's say you are the CEO, you are supposed to be running the company. Are you ready for them to run with the technology? Do you trust them to do that? Because there's only a certain amount of strong oversight that most of them will have patience for before, hey, you're CEO and you brought me on to be the hero. Are you gonna let me be the hero, or are you gonna tell me how to do the dang job? And so, and everyone's run into that at some point. A boss who just doesn't trust you to get the job done. You will have your own worries as a business, as the leader of the business and all that. That stuff is stuff gonna happen right? But at the same time, you have to be able to, are you going to trust yourself to release some of that responsibility onto them? You're still accountable for it to get done, but are you gonna let them be responsible for slaying this dragon? If you can't let them be responsible, if you can't find a way to let them be your Skywalker, you should not be bringing them in, because that's not gonna be a good relationship here. They're not gonna be the hero you need them to be.
And it doesn't scale really realistically to, you know, kind of be a, you know, if you're either having to micromanage to make sure it gets done, you know, in a way that matches your vision. That's why it's important to craft the story and then let them bring in their expertise.
How long does the process take? We are sitting in our office and painting the story and putting everything, but then once we come to the potential development, now all the process that you are talking about, we ask, how long do you think it will take?
This can be, it really depends on the problem.
In order to get the real feeling that it's the right.
I mean, depending on the dragon that you're trying to cast them into, the problem, it could be a 5-minute conversation to where you start getting after 5 minutes, you might start having an idea if it's even working. And part of it's gonna be on you, part of it's gonna be on them. And you know, it's kind of adjusting the pitch as you go. And it's a practice, it's a repetitive, just as any kind of public storytelling, this is the same kind of thing. It's like you've got to practice this pitch just like you would a pitch to an investor. Because everyone's going to engage with it differently. You've got to learn how to read the situation and run with it. And learn after practice, like what things are the keys to understand that this person is disengaged, it's time to move on, or you know, this is the person that we need to get deeper into.
So basically you are talking about 1 interview, 2 interviews. These are the time.
I believe so. Yeah, I think that you know, you could really find most of what you need in 1 to 2 interviews. And this is, you know, I'm talking about, if you're like interviewing a CTO, you want to have a lot more than that, because you know, you need more than just, you know, dragon fit, you need company fit as well. But if you're looking for, you know, someone to solve a particular problem and work in that space, you know, a 1, 2, 3 interviews, depending on how you run it, might be what you need for a particular problem at least.
So basically, it doesn't have yet hands-on on your company. I mean, it's only by conversation. It's not testing him or she, her in the daily working environment.
Mhm.
It's before, much before.
Yeah, this is the pitch before even the interview,
but
to get them
the pitch
interested.
I understand,
Yeah.
but the assessment and understanding
Okay.
that this is a right, is it only by 1 or 2 interviews, or it's something that takes longer, that you give it some, you know, a trial to assignment
Okay.
to do it, what is better, because
Yeah.
because how you differentiate between a real hero and a fake hero?
Yeah, yeah, a hero in disguise, or someone disguised as a hero. You know, that is a risk that you take. You know, as someone who's running a business, you may think that you have found the perfect hero, and it was a dud. It happens.
No, but the main idea
It's-
is that by having such a methodology with the right pitch and with the right, you know, all the preparation is to reduce
Yes,
as much as
exactly.
possible the risk. And
Mhm.
is it actually proven that with having this preparation you succeed to identify quicker and easier the fake hero?
I don't know if I could say it's proven, because it's difficult. Jocelyn, you
I have
really
a
want to
thing.
jump in
I
on
have a
this.
thing. Yeah. So actually, that's something that I wanted to talk about with the job description earlier, right? Like, if I, in my, like, looking at that bulleted list, start to think to myself, oh, I don't have these individual skills, but if I really am somebody that's going to, like, get married to the problem, right, and be on board with you in solving it, then I could pick up those skills in 2 weeks,
True.
right? Like, it's somewhat trivial, yeah.
Depends,
This is
but yes.
actually a pretty good job description. A lot of these are things that you wouldn't learn in 2 weeks, but
Yes.
if you have a bulleted list like this with languages, right? If you have enough experience, then that's a really liquid transition, and it's not meaningful. But those things that, like that buy-in that you want, those are harder to get. So those are the things that you would want to be searching for, even if my, soap is a little weak right now, right? You would want to be adjudicating that. Okay.
So I guess there's no way to guarantee you're not gonna find a dud. But I believe that this will allow you to find, if you are dedicated to this and you actually engage with them and you find that they're engaging back, I would say that your chances are much higher that, especially if they have engaged with the story and they continue to stay engaged through whatever extra conversations you have, that then at that point, yeah, they have become married to it. And whether or not they're a technical dud is a different thing that, you know, I hope you would have your own way of testing and qualifying, but at least what we're hoping to do is let you get the opportunity to get the attention of people who might be able to solve it. And so that's the biggest problem that we would see, is like getting their attention is the hard part. And this job description is one way of not getting their attention.
Yeah, and just one thing, and this is maybe a little outside the theme of the talk, but you know, practically speaking, at 1904, one of the things that we do in our process is we pass developers through a behavioral screen, and then we bring them on site for a technical screening. And usually they write code for us, and we've never
Before hiring.
Before hiring, yes. And we don't make the problem hard, because we don't want to have them, you know, spend time wrestling with the problem in the interview. We want them to show us what they know and what they're able to do with what they know, as a way of, you know, assessing fit.
A good interview is one where they get the opportunity to teach you something.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been there.
Yes.
In the same way that you change the content of the job description and how you frame that conversation. So there's the how. What about the where? Like in terms of where you would put that job description. Like you can throw it out on Indeed and it's everybody who's looking for a job. But
Sure.
for the most part, they're looking for a normal job. Like are there, here's a little niche of tech developers who are really a little bit more open-minded in terms of what that looks like where is the where?
I mean, yeah, there's lots of places to put it out there. I would think that, you know, just putting out there though isn't going to be enough. You know, part of this is also the direct engagement. That kind of what we talk about is like, we've kind of framed this as a pitch. And so this is where we're actually having direct communication. So I would say that, you know, some of the lead up to that story might be in the beginning of this. And then, you know, or if you're, yes.
Can I just say, one of the places it depends on how much time you have, but one of the really great places is meetups. So there, like tonight, there's a Java meetup. And if you have a little money, sponsor the meetup, buy pizza for the meetup, buy the beer for the meetup. Because then you'll have 10 minutes to say, hey, I've got to start a blah, blah, blah. And then afterwards you shake hands with people and say, hey, where are you at in Java? Where did you learn? The other thing I would say is in determining what people's expertise is, everybody learns a first language, right? Ask about their first language and then ask about the 2 or 3 languages they learned afterwards. And when and how they learned those languages, right? Because I can't remember your name, but it's to her point, everybody starts off with, like I started off with Ruby and Ruby on Rails. Well, then I had to learn for launch code, Python and Java, and then some front-end stuff. And it's just sort of like, what kind of projects did you do with them to sort of determine how fast they learned it, how they used it, and what they went on to.
Nice.
If you have a developer that has to
really
learn
evoking some of the history
Yeah.
of their, sort of their path that they.
And they'll start bitching about it, or they'll start saying, I love doing this, or I didn't like that. Like, I hate back end. You know, it's like I would never get a job with back end unless I was really poor and hungry. But, and I can say like why I hated it and everything else, but I learned, MySQL like everybody else, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like he said, you have to engage them, you just have to know some of those pain points and go to the meetups, even to sit there and just listen once to what's going on in the meetup.
Yeah.
So if you have an experienced developer with 10 plus experience, and that person has to go to a class to learn a language, you don't want anything to do with them. Like I've done 25 languages in my career. There's something that it's syntax and semantics. When you get into class libraries, that's a whole nother thing. But it's something you do all the time as a good developer. You're constantly upgrading your skills. So you want someone that can do that. So Stack Overflow to me has a job board that is a great place to find job developers.
And there's a number of local, smaller places to put that.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not confused, but I think we're blurring the lines between technical details, the stuff that's on that resume, and their long-term commitment to the company. Right? You're telling us that you need to go to this person and bring him on board to be a committed person. And then we're having this conversation right now about skills. How many years, all this other stuff. And I don't want that dude because, so going through the last 15 or 18 months, I figured out companies like Google figured this out a long time ago, right? And Facebook and Worldwide Technology says, wait a minute, I want someone that's committed to the overall mission. And if he's lacking a skill set, I'll pay for that for him. But he's on board and he's passionate about it. Like Simon Sinek talked about why. You're here for a reason. So I just want to make sure we're not blurring the facts that's on the bullet points and the person's internal commitment. I think, Brandon, you were kind of, hey, tell me the difference where I go from a skill set to a person that's committed and passionate about the overall why we're here.
And I think, part of it, and part of that arena that you're building might have some technical details that you have to lock down.
Yeah.
But the more of it that you can keep open, the better. And the more that you can afford to teach, the better. Or the more important that you can afford them to teach themselves, the better. Because that's how you're gonna find someone who's wanting to grow for you, and they're getting value out of it, and you're getting value out of it, and it's a good mutual relationship. I know I didn't give you a really good direct answer, but I hope that the room helped a lot better.
Yeah, well, and you were saying at the end there's some local things that.
Yeah, so I mean, like meetups where I can't believe I blanked on meetups. That's the perfect place to actually make a pitch to people who are engaged for a very specific reason.
Also, I would add, I don't know, Matt left, so he's not doing Global Hack, but not the people who attend Global Hack as students or anything, but the mentors at Global Hack. These are people who are passionate about coding and programming, and want to help other people, and you just have to talk to them about your project.
Yeah, and pros, I mean, we've staged teams at Launch Code as well, so pros will have teams there as well. There's always booths there, so I'm kind of in my mind, anywhere that you would have a booth, this is the kind of thing that you need to be working on. I did the same thing yesterday. I was out at the Scandalaris Center pitching to interns for my startup. So trying to get, working on my story, trying to bring them in and show them how they, even as an intern, they could be a hero of a really tiny dragon, but they could come in and provide value. And so I was kind of practicing, what I'm preaching yesterday, to make sure that it actually worked. And I got way too many resumes that I'm gonna have to go through tonight to get that figured out. But I mean, that's the kind of thing that I was envisioning when working on this, is that you are finding a way to talk to them directly. And if we're looking at job description, then I would say some sort of cold open that gives you the chance to start a conversation, because that's where the connections really get made. And so that job description will have whatever limited parameters that you need to put on it, hopefully not quite as deep as that if you really want to get someone quickly in their attention. But if you do have this many rules around your system, that's fine. It's more of, the reason I want to bring this up is this is the only thing that was there. There was no why on this page at all.
But to your point, you were talking about, you wouldn't want these many platforms in a company, because they don't work very well.
Oh, no, that was a consistent
That's a
thing right
consistent,
there.
though.
Right, so that's a recruiter putting a job listing
Yep.
up, that they don't want you going directly to that employer and cutting them out of the mix,
Yeah.
is what's going on there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little,
So they're not
it's a
giving you
little
a
problem
why
on
and
the
the who,
recruiting.
they're giving you the list of skills.
Right.
But if you are doing this directly, you don't have to worry about, someone getting a cut, because you need all of it at that point.
Yeah, and they have a very specific problem that they need, hired hand to help with.
Mhm.
And this is long-term engagement, help shape a company and a company strategy and technical strategy.
And so that is all the content I have prepared. You got your hero fighting the big red dragon. But I want to make sure we still got about 7 minutes left, and I wanted to make sure we've done a good job filling the space between all this. I want to see if we can keep going. If there's anything more that wants to be talked about in the room, that we can see if we can. Yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
What would a job ad look like? Or what,
I think.
What would a job ad look like?
if not that, or how would you craft that in a job ad that is a little bit more bold?
All right, let's see if we can do another Star Wars here.
Like a marketing.
Think about the opening crawl on a Star Wars movie. It tells you a lot of the why as the movie is starting. It tells you why you need to be engaged. So what you need to do is, once you've started working on crafting the story yourself, find that 1 or 2 paragraphs at the beginning of the story that are gonna at least get that click. It's not gonna tell them the whole story. That's reserved for in person, because you can't see if they're engaging with the story just on a response to a job ad. You want to see, though, once you had a chance to engage with them. So that whole, I am the Rebecca company, and I am looking for someone who can help me deal with this specific problem, Dragon X. And so and then you can start engaging that problem, and so that way people can know why they even want to talk to you before you come in. And then afterwards you can set the parameters of, I need them to have at least these skills because that is what I know is required, but everything else, everything that you can leave open, you should. And give something out there that has a few of the keywords for them to hit the searches, but then to tell a little bit of that story so that way you can get the chance to start filling it in later.
You have to sell.
You don't think that's backwards?
Yeah.
You don't think that
I think the way today is backwards.
People should have
Let's get those out there.
skill
If you have a startup, right, like you can't go and offer somebody $100,000 a year plus 401k and benefits, right? What you have to do is you have to go, when you're trying to raise capital for a startup, right? You have to put together a solid sales pitch. You have to go out. You have to sell, right? You have to find people to sell to. People aren't going to come to you because you can't offer that $100,000, that 401k, those benefits, right? So you can offer them equity, and if they're interested enough in the problem, they'll take the equity. Right.
And so if you have enough
there's-
keywords, go ahead,
And
Brenda.
I think that there's, the more specific you get, the more and more constraints you have. But there is something amazingly freeing about greenfield development to any developer. Hey, this is a blank canvas, and I get to bring my paints and paint the picture that I wanna, paint.
And you genuinely get to be the hero there instead of just some serf amongst the crowd dealing with all of it.
It is horrible to inherit a terrible code base, massive code base that is poorly written and mashed together from a bunch of different things. So, yeah, greenfield is very exciting to us. I want to know about the problem though. Like, I want to know am I in education? What's the field? Is it something I'm interested in? Because I can use my technology skills to solve problems from a wide range of industries. So I want to know, is this something I'm interested in? What are you doing? Is that going to be? So start with that. Start about what's the bigger problem you're trying to solve, and then you can get into how you want to go about solving it.
Can I apply my skills to that?
You're a stranger to me. Why should I care about your problem? And that's what you're trying to. That's the hill you're trying to overcome.
As a CEO though, so like especially with what you're trying to do, I think it's very critical that when you bring that person in, even though you want him to have freedom, he's gonna leave eventually, right? And if he created a mess, and the next time comes in, you take it to the next step, you're like, well, he had Greenfield, and he was doing this great stuff, but now, right, there's no structure and you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and so you can still guide the hero. You don't have to let them go off on their own because they may pull a Don Quixote and start tilting windmills instead of attacking the dragon.
And that's part of the balance of, yes, you want to give them a canvas.
Great metaphor.
Don Quixote.
I told you, I live in metaphor land.
You want to give them a canvas and let them paint, but you also, that's balanced with qualifications. And so you also want to test that qualifications.
And read a page on the software maturity model. It basically guides good practices when you're developing code. They're going to check their code into a source control system. They're going to follow certain guidelines. Just read a page on it, make sure that they're going to follow some of those principles.
And if you're looking for someone of a high enough level of responsibility, check their credentials, check what they've worked on before. Make sure that they're not going to build you a pile of junk, that you're going to have something that you can actually take and grow. And hopefully, if you're early enough and you're needing someone of that high level of responsibility, someone that is ready to help grow other people into that same space. So.